Hey world, this is it, the most driven podcast on the radio. Welcome to The Driven, a podcast brought to you by the kick-ass nutrition science team at mDrive. mDrive is all you need and all you need to know in the world of more energy, more focus, more stamina, and more drive. I'm your host, Rick Baroff, longtime ultra-endurance athlete and mDrive ambassador. We're going to talk it up with a wealth of amazing, passionate, dedicated, and driven guys in all walks of life. So get ready to be motivated and inspired. It's The Driven Podcast.
As they say, there's legends and then there's Texas-sized legends. Investigative journalist and news anchor Brett Shipp fits the ladder to a big old Texas-sized T. Son of another legendary newsman, Brett Shipp, whose raucous old school style set the tone for the shoot first, ask questions, and permission later style of journalism, Brett has taken up the mantle of hard-hitting, impact-making journalism to new heights, especially in today's mile-a-minute, social media-charged world. From getting punched out by politicians to getting chased by Hall of Fame NFL football stars and an emotional spur-of-the-moment road trip from Dallas to New York City to cover 9/11, Brett is the epitome of a passionate, ultra-driven, go the extra mile to dig up all the facts and then hook 'em with sympathy bloodhound on par with any illustrious newsmen of yesteryear. He's currently the lead anchor for Spectrum One News across all of Texas, where he uses his perch to fight for truth, justice, and accountability. He'll talk about the highs and the lows of a job, which can often make or break reputations, as well as actually save lives, how he keeps pace with the young media punks at the tender age of 64, and how his passion for helping people drives him to keep going with no retirement in sight. So, tune in at the top of the hour as we dive in with world-class newsman Brett Shipp.
Ready? Yeah. Boom. Yes. 3, 2, 1. What's up, mDrive Nation? Rick here. I am live in the studio. Maybe not a studio, conference room.
Or not live.
Or not live. But I'm live, and I'm nervous because I'm with Mr. Brett Shipp, who is in the studio live all the time.
What did he know, and when did he know it? Coming up.
Yes. So, this should be an amazing, energetic interview for sure. We have a lot to talk about, a lot of history to cover, a lot of present to cover. So, how do I start this thing? Oh, yes, I got to ask some questions. So, Mr. Shipp, how are you today?
Are you sure you want? You just want me to start talking?
No, I'd love to know. So, we're here in Dallas. You have quite a fan base here and throughout Texas.
I've got a few enemies too.
Enemies, yes.
Yes.
We'll get to that.
Base and an enemy base.
We'll get to that. So you're born and raised in Dallas. You're Dallasite through and through.
I born here, lived here almost my entire life. I did make went off to college, went up to Amarillo, Tulsa for a few years, but I've been back here since '91, and this is home. News is my world.
News is your world, yes.
And sports. News and sports.
News and sports, for sure. Starting with that, I mean, we'll get to your father, of course, but because of him, was it always something, or did you have another goal? You want to be a fireman or astronaut, one of those things growing up? What was your original plan?
I wanted to be a fire truck at one time. I remember that. But I don't know. Growing up, I just had such a privileged world that my dad worked at Channel 8, and everybody knew my dad because he was on TV for many years. He was behind the scenes for many years, but he would drive the news wagon that had WFAA Channel 8 on it, and he would take me to school. And I'd pull up and get out, wave by, and be like, hey, there's Brett Shipp's old man, Brett Shipp. Wow. So I was kind of a celebrity. We didn't have a pot to piss in. We had no money. My dad was like, our vacations would be, we'd go to Fort Worth and rent a Motel 6 and swim in the pool there. That was our growing up. But I had my dad who would take me to all the Dallas Chaparral games. It's ABA, basketball, hockey games, the Blackhawks, Dallas Blackhawks. I'd go to the Cowboy games. We had season tickets, 35-yard line to the Cowboy games at first the Cotton Bowl, then at Texas Stadium. Why? Because my dad was buddies with the owner and the general manager, and knew Tom Landry, and he and Don Meredith were running buddies. So I just had this privileged life growing up at Channel 8 and in the world of media. And guess what? It stuck.
It stuck. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So we're on your dad. Your dad, for those who don't know, we can look him up. Brett Shipp was a legendary newsman who's got amazing stories.
Go to YouTube and type in Brett Shipp Beatles.
Brett Shipp Beatles.
Interview.
Right. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. So Lad, give us that little tale quickly. So the Beatles, little tiny band from somewhere across the pond, they came to town in the 60s.
Yes, they did. In '64 was their first invasion of America, their first tour. They went on like a 30-stop tour. It was crazy, and Dallas was like the second to last stop. And my dad's assignment that night was, hey, Bert, would you go interview the Beatles they're having a press conference at Memorial Auditorium. And my dad's like, oh, sure, okay. And then they have a concert at Memorial Auditorium. So he shows up, and the press conference hadn't started, but he figures out that there's a cop standing in front of what he knows is kind of a dressing room. And he's thinking, now why would this cop be standing in this dressing room? And of course he figured out very quickly, I bet the Beatles are in there. So he fast talked his way past the cop. He probably knew that cop and got in, and there were the Beatles sitting there without Brian Epstein. They were totally unmonitored, totally unprepared for my dad, his photographer, who waltzed in and said, hey, y'all mind if we do a quick interview? And they said, go right ahead, Tex. And the rest is history. He interviews the Beatles without knowing who they are. He had no idea what to ask them. I think at one point he asks, he goes, any of y'all writing a book? And John goes, I'm writing a book. He goes, what's it called? He goes, I don't know, I haven't written it yet. I mean, what? What the hell?
That's great.
And then they start making fun of his accent, and then they just start poking fun at him, and he didn't care. He got his interview and then took off.
Gold. Yeah.
He didn't even stick around for the concert. He could care less. He was like, I got my exclusive. I'm going back to the station.
Nice, right on. Let's just get, let's rip the Band-Aid off. The Dallas Observer, one of our local rags here, has actually said that you have an uncanny knack for provocation, which is a nice way of saying what D Magazine, another local rag, has said that you are basically a bully. Yeah. But to get what you
Guilty
get.
as charged.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged. Yeah. Anybody who is a power broker in the community, who is gaming the system or making people's lives miserable, yeah. I am very tenacious about my holding them accountable.
Yeah.
And do some people see that as intrusive or bully-like behavior or untoward? Guilty as charged. That's my job. I have, at some point I transitioned into an investigative reporter. And when you do that, what you do is you get this pool of ideas and stories and complaints that come into you, and you look at them and you throw them out and you thought, that's too gray. I want something black and white. I want a bad guy. Who are the bad guys in this community? And the bad guys I end up reporting on are the bad guys who call me bully. And I'm okay with that. In fact, Rick, put that on my tombstone.
Put that on tombstone.
Brett was a bully.
Here lies the biggest bully in Texas.
Yeah.
That'd be
And
pretty big.
I've had some negative media, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect, and maybe I've done some things or said some things that hurt some people, or some people feel aren't fair. I can handle the criticism. I always have, but I think my record speaks for itself. And look, I'm still doing this. I'm 64 years old and I'm still doing this. And if I was so bad and so, a bad journalist or a bad character, I've been run off long ago. Because lots of journalists have been run off in this town.
I'm going to call it something else. I'm going to call it passion, which, people, of course, understand the concept, but, you have an absolute passion for this, too. It's beyond the job. Your dad obviously had a passion for it too, but talk about that. I mean, talk about, you don't become a bully and get that kind of thing without, if you were just doing your job, as they say, if you were just trying to report the news, probably gives you all the energy to keep going.
It does. I mean, you are an adventure photographer. That's your drug. You being on a mountaintop and being in exhilarating situations and experiencing the world like nobody else gets to experience it. I'm that same way. I'm the guy who has found I believe, the purest form of the creation of the journalistic profession, and that is to change the world in a good way, is to achieve justice and to hold people accountable. I mean, we're protected by the U.S. Constitution for a reason. Yeah. Why is that? Oh, because the three branches of government don't always work. And we need almost a watchdog, someone to hold the three branches of government and power in check, and that is a free press. And once I came to understand what that means and the responsibility that holds, once you become a full appreciation, then it becomes a passion, then it becomes my drug. And now I'm like, okay, what can I do to help society? What can I do to help people? Here's one thing that's really interesting and very important today, is that the media has been portrayed in such a negative light by a number of elements in society. Fake news, fake media, biased, liberal media, woke media, whatever. And like, why are you reporters, the mainstream media, the lamestream media, why are you so liberal? And my answer to that is because I've spent my career on the streets talking to people who are affected by the societal ills, people who are the victims of being abused or victim of being downtrodden or just society tends to victimize poor people who aren't necessarily sophisticated, don't have well-means, and are brought up in a system that is meant to keep them down. Once you see where people come from, once you understand where they live and how they are treated by society, then you think, this story needs to be told. Yeah. And you gain an appreciation of all walks of life. So does that make us liberal? Does that make us biased? And, no, it just makes us want to be a part of the solution and expose injustice to society. And I live that, I breathe that. It's not all I do, but it's the most important thing I do.
Going back to how you cut your teeth in this, again, you had your dad as an example. Tell us about when you're like, oh gosh, I'm going to dive into this too. And as you said, you had some stops along the way, Amarillo, Tulsa. Tell us about just getting started on this journey. What your first piece was, and were you nervous?
I have to, when I go back to where I started, I got to go back to radio. I was still in college at Stephen F. Austin, and I got my first radio gig. And I don't know how this came about, but I did a story on, I was covering a crime in Lufkin, Texas, and the police report said gang members. And it was back in the early 80s when, all that was the colors and everything in LA. And I'm like, wait a second, this is Lufkin, Texas gang members? Yeah. So I went to the police department. I'm like, we've got a gang unit. I'm like, no way. And nobody knew that. In Lufkin, Texas and East Texas, there's a gang. Yeah. And so I ended up following gang members out on the streets at night to go look for gang members, and I basically did a little documentary on gangs in Lufkin, Texas.
Wow.
And I did it with my recorder, and my, my handheld microphone. And I'm like, well, this is really interesting because I'm learning things that I never knew. And that's the thing. Every day is different.
Yeah.
Every day. I covered my first hurricane in Lufkin, Texas. I forget which hurricane it was, but it was probably 1982. And it came up from Houston and went right up through East Texas. And there I am riding out a hurricane in Lufkin, Texas with 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Wow, okay.
And I'm like, the adrenaline.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Am I right?
Yeah,
What does that feel like?
it's amazing, yeah.
What does that feel like?
It's awesome to be able to do that. You were the Weather Channel before the Weather Channel, right? Yeah.
So, that was just radio, and then I got into TV, and I got a job in Amarillo. So I ended up in Amarillo. Our little ABC station was in the ground floor of the Mesa Petroleum building. Hello, who's up on 13?
Yeah.
T. Boone Pickens.
T. Boone, all right.
T. Boone was up on the top floor of the Mesa Petroleum building when I got to Amarillo. And guess what T. Boone was in the middle of doing, or just started doing, when I got to Amarillo? Oh, I'm going to take over Phillips Petroleum.
Oh, you will, okay.
Oh, it was a hostile takeover of one of the largest petroleum companies upstairs.
Wow,
and so
right
I immediately started interviewing T. Boone Pickens every day and what it was like, this corporate hostile takeover. I didn't even know what that was, but I learned.
Wow.
And then I was doing stories at Pantex, which is the bomb building factory outside Amarillo.
Amarillo. Bomb City. They call it Bomb City, Amarillo.
Yeah. And I just got an opportunity to do things I never even imagined. That was in Amarillo. And then I went to Tulsa and I started covering the state capitol. I learned about politics, and I investigated the governor. I made the governor have to give back money on a campaign contribution. And then the next governor came in and I busted him taking illegal campaign contributions, and he got indicted by the FBI, the governor. And that was my first real taste of investigative reporting, and I was like,
done. Okay, now they might not be so quick. Some of them might be quick, but 3 quick incidents that I've read about. Number one, it's probably happened maybe more than once, but I read an incident where you got punched out by a local politician, or punched at least.
Punched? Yeah.
Okay.
I got the photo.
All right. Oh, you do a photo. Okay. So let's see. What led to that?
Well, without getting
as unbiased as possible.
Without getting into too many details, a local politician, a county commissioner, had been indicted by the FBI for corruption, and was this guy corrupt? And I started following a few leads, and one of those leads led me to his office, and I went out to his office one day, and he tried to keep me out, and then he charged me and threw a punch at me. And then he threatened to kill me.
Oh.
He threatened to slit my throat. No, I'll split your neck.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was maybe some karate.
Something, yeah, it might be karate.
Like, oh, really?
Yeah.
And I happened to have a microphone. I was holding it down a little lower. He said it, and I raised the microphone slowly, and I said, "What's that, Commissioner? You're going to split my neck?"
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Really? And then that was that.
All right. Second one, hopefully maybe more fun, but I don't know the details, which is why we're asking. Suppose you were chased by one of the most famous football players of all time, Deion Sanders, and maybe
no. Let me set the record straight.
Okay.
Deion and I became pretty fast friends. He and D.L. Wallace, his business partner, started a charter school, and he wanted basically to do it to create this football team and recruit these players, because he had a documentary. He had a reality show. Deion had his own reality show, and he needed a prop. Okay. So he started a charter school. It's always a good idea.
Yeah.
So I caught him recruiting kids and basically violating UIL rules, state high school football rules. And I showed up to practice one day because I needed video of his team playing, and Deion kicked me off the field.
Wow.
And so I went across the street and got video of his team practicing from across the street. And then he goes, "Boys, go get it."
All right.
And so here comes the entire football team in full pads, and it's just me, Rick. It's just me and my little camera, my little handy dandy handy cam, and here they come. And they surrounded me, and they tried to intimidate me.
Wow, okay.
They did not.
All right.
I got my story. It was like, this is almost too good to be true.
Yeah, hey, everybody else. Right on,
Y'all got anything else?
Yeah. Wow, your name's right on the back of your
But
jersey.
probably less than a year later, Dion was calling me because his business partner had stolen the school from him and was reaping all the benefits, and he was upset. So he started tipping me off as to bad things that his business partner had been done. So he and I became friends. In fact,
You
I
got
still
Dion.
got his cell phone.
Yeah.
We can call. We can talk.
New coach of Colorado Buffaloes. All right. Yeah. Maybe we'll get season tickets for them too. Who knows? Yeah. And on a more serious
No, I
note.
didn't think
Yeah.
about
Oh, you
that.
didn't? Yeah. Get some
Call.
tickets. Right. Get some tickets here.
Hey. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. We'll call them right after. And then another, pretty awesome thing. I mean, even though you're of course Texas-based, and especially your work now and your work revolve around Texas, you've done national level things. So I heard that the day after 9/11, you and a colleague were literally in a car from North Texas to New York City.
The day of 9/11.
Day of 9/11. Wow. Okay.
Like the second tower had just fallen. And that's when the news director said, go, get in the car and go.
Wow.
So producer and I and a photographer rented a van, and we drove 24 hours straight through to New York City. Actually, not even New York, we were in New Jersey, Hoboken, where we had to basically stay for 2 days watching the smoke from lower Manhattan and try to tell the story as best we could from across the river. And then they opened up the Lincoln Tunnel or the Holland Tunnel, and we drove over and spent the next week telling the story of the aftermath of 9/11 and what it was like for the residents of the city and the rescuers and the emergency crews who were desperately trying to find some sort of sense of life. And it was hard. It was definitely the highlight of my career and the low light of my career, because emotionally that was tough. It was devastating. It was devastating because so many people were affected. And everywhere you went and they saw you and saw a camera and saw a microphone, and they would come up to you and say, please help me find my loved one. Rick, one person after another wanted to go on camera to say, this is my brother, this is my mother, this is my husband, please help me find them, please help me find, I know they're alive.
Yeah.
And dude, after a week of that, I was a wreck.
Yeah. Wow.
I was a wreck. I needed counseling and I didn't realize it. I just was it was devastating. Well, the whole country obviously was devastated by it. But to be there and to see it and be in the middle of it and to still smell that burning iron, that burning steel, you could just waft it over the lower Manhattan where we were, and it just reminded you of the uncertainty of life and the fragility of life. And it was hard, but it was still my greatest assignment.
Wow. Okay. That's a great segue into just how, you've been doing this for decades. Obviously, you're
Centuries.
Centuries. How do you have any, I don't say proven, but how do you deal with the emotions, the ups and downs of this job? Not just obviously a huge thing like that, but every day, you're going through different highs and lows. Do you have any sort of routines, any physical activities that you do? How do you deal with the emotions of your job?
Yeah, the emotions is really the easiest part after you've been doing it for 40 years. You really kind of segregate your emotional feelings and put them aside. Not to say that they don't crop up, because I have feelings. And I've recently did a story about a family whose mother was killed in the classroom. She was a teacher in the classroom, and a student injured her and sent her to the hospital, and she died. And I was basically the one who told the family what happened to their mother, because the school never told them this true story, what happened to their mother. And I did it. And I'm the one who told them. And it's very hard to see the visceral sort of anger and raw emotion coming from somebody, and you feel that, and you just like, God, this is so terrible. But again, it's my job. Because if I don't tell this story, if I don't push this out here, if I don't do my job and get the facts and get the feelings and get the emotions and bottle them and present them to the public, then change is never affected. It does nobody any good not to tell these stories. So I have to segregate my emotions and put my profession into full gear and make sure that I do the best job I can to affect change by putting together a story, telling a story to people to make them care. That's what I tell the young reporters. You know what you do in your story? You make people care. Say it, see it, feel it. Make us want to do something about it. Make us feel something. That's your job as a reporter. And that's my job. And that's arguably the best part of my job.
Yeah. Did you play sports growing up?
I played football, yeah.
And I mean, anything, obviously not playing football now, but I mean, again, do you have any sort of routines or any activity that you do to help you cope with any of that stuff? Not right now?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Punching bag?
I do something. No, okay. I do. I'm not every day. I lied. Most days. I have a routine where I do my cardio, I do my core, I do my toning, my back exercises. I had back surgery when I was 40 years old, and I'm 64, and I've never had problems since because my therapist taught me a routine on taking care of your back.
Yes.
And I do it every day. Every time I work out, I do my back exercises, do my core, do my weights, do my cardio, and it's what keeps me going. It energizes me. My stretching, the most important thing. And that may be the most important part of my workout is my stretching. Because I want to make sure I'm flexible, and when bad guys chase me or I chase them, we know when to engage the full sprint or the jog.
Yeah, we know how fast Dion was. It's on time.
Yeah, so no, I think it's, I go out and cover stories every day. Nobody does that at my age.
Wow, yeah.
I do it because I do take care of myself. I try to eat right. Mexican food, Italian food, fried chicken.
Awesome, perfect.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah. Those are the 3 Texas food groups, right? I think 3 Texas food groups.
Barbecue.
I forgot the 4th one.
So but I definitely take care of myself. I go to the gym, and it's just an important part of my routine. What's hard now is finding time to do it.
Yeah.
But I will find time at some point today. I get up at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
I'm at work at 5, and I usually work till 4:30 or 5 every day, sometimes later, but it was after that I get my workout in. So
Gotcha.
Workout, stretch, core, cardio.
Nice. Right on.
It.
You gave everybody a plan. Gosh, yeah, we were running through this just like a segment on the news. That was great. Well, let's talk about, people, of course, anybody in Texas is probably going to be familiar with you, and certainly are out there, been, awarded some of the highest awards there are in journalism, Peabody's, Emmys, that kind of stuff. Any of them that either the stories or the awards that you feel it acknowledged you, or that any of them that you're proudest of?
It's pretty easy. The one I'm most proud of is the one I won the gold baton for, which is the highest honor in broadcasting. Was when I did a series of stories of house explosions in North Texas, and why so many houses were blowing up, and I was able to, through about a 2-year investigation, pretty much pinpoint a particular coupling in the ground that was the NTSB back in the 70s said, you guys need to pull this coupling out because it doesn't work. And the local gas company in North Texas didn't ever do that. And nobody figured out why all these houses were blowing up and all these people were being burned alive in horrible fashion. Nobody ever connected the dots until I followed up on a house explosion one morning. My boss came to me and said, take whatever time you need, but find out why Benny and Martha Cryer died. And that was in 2007. And I worked the next 2 years to uncover the truth and force change and make sure all those couplings came out of the ground.
Wow.
And I won the gold baton for that. And there's a lot of stories I'm proud of, but that was because I'm saving lives.
Totally.
I'm saving lives.
Yeah, and so you have that
People.
power for sure. I mean, with investigative.
And that's why we exist. That's why we're the fourth estate. That's why we're protected by the U.S. Constitution, because that is our job, is to hold the powerful accountable and make positive change in society. And when we stop doing that, when we lose sight of the fact that that is our charge, that is our job and our responsibility, when we quit doing that, then we're done. Democracy's done.
Yeah. Wow. We blazed through. I'm going to leave this here. I mean, this is a news segment. Boom. Yeah. I have no words. I'm again nervous at a loss for how to end this, but we're just going to say thank you, Brett. That was amazing. End scene. Boom. Just be passionate. Stay driven. We'll see you next time.